Hello everyone, and welcome to the Mega Magikarp YouTube channel. This channel is dedicated to deeper details and build potential within Destiny 2. Today's video is a Perk Mythbuster video where we look into a perk in the game and run it through all the number crunching and data points possible to figure out exactly what it does and how to best use it. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be alerted when any video comes out. Today's video is on Dragonfly, one of my personal favorite perks. So Dragonfly, pretty simple of a base concept, precision kills cause an elemental damage explosion, kills something, it goes boom, things near it die. This is based on Firefly, one of Destiny 1's most lauded perks. Everybody loved Firefly back then, but in Destiny 2 it's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. So I want to get into the details of the thing, why I love it so much, talk about how its shortcomings come into play. A quick note, this doesn't roll on kinetic weapons at all. This is just energy weapons and heavy weapons. But I honestly don't think that it's any good on most heavy weapons besides that one raid LMG that you can get from Season of Opulence, but I'm not going to go into that very much because, well, frankly, it's the only one. As far as how much damage you can expect to do with Dragonfly, it's not exactly revolutionary damage, and it's not really supposed to be either. With the Adhortative Pulse Rifle, I was doing 1,596 damage on a 3-burst headshot within effective ranges, and the most damage that I would ever see on Dragonfly with Dragonfly spec mod on was about a little over 2,000 damage, with the average case being around 1,200 damage. So you're ranging from the damage of effectively 2 additional headshots from a 3-headshot weapon on something on a nearby vicinity, and at the absolute most, if they're right on top of each other, we're talking the effective damage of 4 headshots. So as it's clearly meant to do by design, it's really only meant to go and weaken or even kill a bunch of trash mobs in the vicinity of one trash mob, or maybe even if you've downed a large major, maybe anything in the immediate vicinity of the major, but you're not exactly going to be taking down just swaths of yellow bars or one-shotting Riven with, Dragonfly. It's just not happening. First and foremost, this is not a PvP perk at all. Yes, you can technically get kills with it. Yes, it does 65 damage if the enemy is literally holding hands with the enemy that you just killed, but overall it's so situational. I'd even rate underwhelming perks like dynamic sway reduction over it. Because even though some perks in Destiny 2 is hard to quantify on their exact functionality, at least it's actively doing something to improve your gameplay, even if you're not really able to explain how. Dragonfly, I just don't see doing that in most any circumstance. And the thing is, even in PvE circumstances, it's not always a huge banger there either. Part of it is because there's a huge component of it that's tied to the exact weapon. The footage in the back, for example, is the Adhortative Pulse Rifle. Not currently available to be gotten in the game, it was from Season of the Undying. I personally love this Pulse Rifle a ton, specifically if Hive are involved. Solar breaks the shields on wizards, Thrall get wiped super quick, it keeps most knights at bay, it shreds acolytes. It's a really good weapon for that. Vex, on the other hand, not so friendly to it. The Hobgoblins shield up partway through a burst, but most primaries can't rip a Hobgob fast enough to murder anyway, so it's not entirely fair. But still, Goblins really like to cover their own crit spot, it doesn't do much against Void Minotaur shields. And worst of all, Harpies, the easiest enemy in the entire game to get crit kills on, they don't even explode. So you really gotta know what you're facing before you bring in a gun with Dragonfly, and the elemental shield matching is pretty paramount in my opinion if you want to make it worth it. I've been using a Jack Queen King hand cannon with Demolitionist and Dragonfly for a minute, and it's been so much better against fallen enemies because fallen captains have arc shields versus my Adhortative Pulse Rifle, which has solar damage. The second big thing is Dragonfly is actually variable in its power in really weird ways. First off, it cares about the weapon type that it's being used with exclusively, not the archetype it's used on. To put it in terms that are a little bit more explanatory, any and all hand cannons all do the same amount of Dragonfly damage regardless of the type of hand cannon. So if you get an adaptive 140 RPM hand cannon, it's not going to do any different damage than a precision 180 RPM hand cannon would do. But Pulse Rifles will have different damage for their Dragonflies versus hand cannons versus bows. It's not going to be too noticeable most of the time, but it is worth noting that it is a possibility. Secondly, it's not actually even able to be buffed in damage by weapon perks, only empowerment style effects. Warlock empowering melees, empowering Rift, weapons of light from Titans, even minor and major spec will increase the damage, as well as of course Dragonfly spec, which all increase the damage of Dragonfly, Dragonfly spec adding about 50% damage to Dragonfly, which by extension extends the effective damage of it, but perks like Rampage will not increase the damage of Dragonfly. Dragonfly will proc those secondary perks though, so Rampage stacks will go up from a Dragonfly kill. So if you get a headshot kill, you go to Rampage times 1, you get a couple of kills with Dragonfly alongside it, you'll automatically jump up to the next stage of Rampage or 2, but your Dragonfly will still do the same amount of damage no matter what. Make sense? No? Good. It doesn't make sense to me either, I'm just the one reporting it. Another quick point that I want to point out here, if you have an explosive head bow with Dragonfly or an explosive round hand cannon with Dragonfly, be warned that the way that the game can register damage sometimes, it's sometimes just not going to do anything. The explosion may kill them first before your headshot, so you lose out on the AoE, and that can just be a really bad time. Next thing is something unfortunately kind of difficult to quantify in Destiny as to when or why, but it will happen regardless, and that's just that. The game can be inconsistent. We've all had it happen. A kill with Recluse won't proc Feeding Frenzy or Master of Arms for a few seconds, then it just pops up out of nowhere, not getting the perfect draw explosion off of Le Monarque. And of course, Dragonfly is no exception. Sometimes it's actually one of the biggest offenders on the matter. Sometimes the explosions are delayed or just don't happen. Sometimes you get a kill with all body shot numbers and you get an explosion anyway. It's really weird, but there's no real way to account for it or mitigate it. It just kinda happens. This is probably the biggest reason that it sees less prominence than Rampage at the moment, because even with the Rampage nerfed to half of its original Forsaken values, sometimes the delay of Dragonfly can just be a really feels bad moment. One last thing of note is mostly just a reminder, but something you've got to keep in mind whenever you're using it. Dragonfly does basically nothing to help you rip through the higher health pool mobs. It's specifically meant to go from red bar enemy to red bar enemy quickly and blow through them, but unlike damage increasing perks in the same vein of Rampage and Swashbuckler, you won't deal with that large blocker any faster with a Dragonfly gun. So if you're rocking a Dragonfly weapon in PvE, I would strongly advise your heavy be your DPS of choice, and your special be something you could use for those chunky majors. One of my personal favorites at the moment is Bastion, but something like a shotgun or sniper. I'd love to say fusions as well, but as it stands, since Dragonfly only rolls on energy weapons and Ace of Spades, I guess, you're kind of relegated to running a shotgun or a sniper alongside it. I guess grenade launchers too, if you really want to go that way as well. But all of this really boils down to, how does the perk actually perform out in the world? Honestly, it kind of depends on the weapon that you use it on. When I was going through and getting footage for this video, I actually was really looking forward to seeing how Age-Old Bond was going to perform. Age-Old Bond being the 360 RPM high impact frame auto rifle that you could get from Last Wish, and mine has Dragonfly on it, and I really wanted to say that it was going to be fantastic, but as much as I enjoy actually using the thing, I think that I'd have to give it to the Ringing Nail, Adhortative, Trust. A lot of other guns just seem to be more compatible with the weapon, and I'm not entirely sure how to quantify that in a way that makes sense, but Age-Old Bond in particular, it just felt kind of difficult to land those headshots when I needed to, and some of the other weapons that I was using, I just didn't have that problem. Scout rifles aren't really feeling very hot at the moment. They really haven't been feeling any good for quite some time now, so using Dragonfly on a scout rifle is something I'd probably recommend not using. I would probably focus on getting damage-based perks on your scout rifles before I would get Dragonfly. Even though I really want to say that I enjoyed my time using something like the curated distant relation, which has triple tap and Firefly, I just didn't. I really could not get behind it. Same with even the Pinnacle Scout Rifle, the Oxygen SR4. Its entire perk set is based around Dragonfly, and yet I just could not have a good time with the thing. On the other hand, Ringing Nail, ripping through mobs like nobody's business, Trust, being super precise and just taking out things left and right, blowing up everything in sight. Even some of the bows and the sidearms that I was using felt really good to use. I still think that the Ringing Nail and the Trust are a little bit higher on the totem pole for me. It might just be the fact that it has the Rampage built onto those particular ones that I have, but I really do think that those weapons are some of the most fun that I can have in PvE. Their ability to proc Dragonfly is really consistent. Their ability to do damage outside of Dragonfly is consistent. Still think that my personal favorite out of all of these is the Adhortative, but there's something about the weapon that just feels good to me, and that's just what I like using. Among the weapons that you can always obtain with Dragonfly that I love, the Ringing Nail, Auto Rifle, and the Trust Hand Cannon like I was talking about, the only guns that can currently roll the Rampage Dragonfly roll at the moment. Last Hope can roll with Outlaw Dragonfly. I think Outlaw Rampage is a little bit better, but it's worth giving a shot anyway. Premonition from the Dungeon and Age-Old Bond from Last Wish. Yes, I know I talked a little bit of trash about Age-Old Bond, but only a little bit. I still think that it's good. They're both really slow but really hard-hitting, crispy Void primaries that can roll it. And of course, Nation of Beasts. It can roll with the Outlaw Dragonfly as curated from Vorgeth in Last Wish. You know. if I can get it to drop. So that's Dragonfly in depth in Destiny 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of it. Do you love any of the guns that it rolls on right now? Do you want to buff it? Do you think it needs buffed? Is it fine as is? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.